Hello, dear passengers. This is your captain speaking, and we are about to take off for another episode of Adventulina. Hello everyone. It's Sunday. It's adventure time, or I should say Adventulina time. Well, not Christmas time, what the hell. Anyway, your captain is back in town after a little over half a month trip to the East Coast. I just came back from another soul trip, remember? A trip for the soul. And I'm still kind of wrapping my head around everything great I got to experience. My first destination was Niagara Falls. Then I went to Boston, which I actually hadn't been to for a really long time, 11 years if we have to be exact. Airport doesn't count. After Boston, I headed to my first American love, Cape Cod. As a former exchange student, I will always remember my first culture experience, my first interaction with Americans, my first impression of the country and the way of living. And all that comes from the first place you get to visit in that country, right? For me, that was Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and it will forever be a special place, full of memories and stories. But anyway, you may think I had an amazing time and everything went smoothly, but no. Let me tell you something. If it's going too well, it's too weird. Or like we say in my country, too good is not good. Kind of stupid and pretty pessimistic, but hey, I don't make that shit up. It exists. So I had a great time everywhere I went. I created amazing memories and lifetime lasting memories, but that didn't just come like this, right? It brought some challenges along, because when you travel so often and you get from plane to plane, from bus to bus, from ferry to ferry, from car to car, there is no way for everything to be perfect. So let me tell you about how my trip started. So I love going to the airport, which I've shared before. This means to me that I'm about to take off and experience some cool stuff. I'm going on a trip, I'm going to explore. I just love the airport feeling, okay? However, I am one of the people who need constant access to food. I have no idea why this is, but I always carry something in my purse, like a snack or something like that. I would rather carry things that I'm not even gonna touch than not to bring anything and to be hungry. I always go somewhere with food, or I always go somewhere where there is food. For me, food is a big thing. I cannot stand being hungry. I'm just a different person. If I'm hungry, don't talk to me, don't approach me, don't you dare ask me questions unless that involves a question about how I like my fries, for example. So when I go places, I always ask if there is food, because the biggest nightmare for me is to be somewhere with no food and to be hungry. I have no idea why I'm like this. I have never struggled to have food or to afford things like that, but I swear I get anxious if there is no food option around me and if I need to stay there. So before going to the airport for my trip, I of course had dinner, because first I was hungry and second I was getting on a red-eye flight, which means no food. Fuck that shit. Because they don't give you anything except for a goddamn cookie on a flight overnight. A cookie, which basically cannot even fill in my cavities, but that's a different topic. Anyway, knowing that, they weren't gonna give me any food, my plan was to have dinner at home, have another meal at the airport right before I board, and also bring some snacks with me on the plane. And I got to the airport and I was like, okay, let me wait for a little bit until I'm hungry, because, I kind of wanted to build up my appetite and eat later to be able to handle this flight until the morning. However, that wasn't God's plan. I went to find a place to pick up food from, and next thing I know, every freaking place on this goddamn airport was closing, literally in front of my eyes. Like, first place, oh, the kitchen is already closed. Second place, oh, the kitchen has been closed. Third place, oh, we don't even have a kitchen. I mean, I'm kidding, but you know what I mean. And I was like, what the hell? It's not even 9:30 p.m. and it's one of the biggest airports in the freaking country. I basically went everywhere and I tried every option I had at San Francisco International No Food Port. And I was like, well, looks like I'm not going to have dinner. So God bless this bag of M&Ms that I had in my backpack because, again, I ain't going anywhere with no snack. So my dinner was basically a bag of M&Ms. And when I say a bag, it's one of those shared size bags. I don't even understand why they would put the sign shared size on something like candy. Like, I'm not gonna share that with anyone, but whatever. I just hate being hungry. I need to know I have access to food. And on a plane, you're kind of stuck. Like, you can't just, get in a car and go pick up something. You're there. You have to be there until you land. If I'm in the city, if I'm anywhere, I can go and get some food from a place. Where am I going to get food on a plane? That only gives you a cookie and flies flicking 11 kilometers high in the air. Sorry, Imperial System, 7 miles or whatever. So being trapped on a plane without food is one of the worst things ever for me, especially when you're hungry. Literally, you cannot sleep, you cannot enjoy watching anything or listening to anything. All you think about is that you're hungry and food. And the fact that you cannot get food anytime soon. So I was already kind of upset, as you can tell. Even now I'm getting upset again. But I was like, okay, it's just the beginning. Let's not ruin the beginning of my trip. So I just decided to try to sleep a little bit. But whoever knows me knows that I cannot sleep on a plane. I only sleep on my stomach, so good luck with sleeping on a plane. I didn't expect to be able to sleep at all, but I'm like, okay, I would just try to take a nap or something like this. Pretty much, I would try to close my eyes and rest. So once I was in my seat and they turned off the lights, knowing that no food would be coming my way, I was ready to try taking the goddamn nap. I was ready, but the universe was not. Because next thing I know, a person sitting in the row in front of me starts snoring. But when I say snoring, imagine someone who's like screaming while they're sleeping, literally. I thought he was joking because I hadn't heard anything like this in my life. It was like crying out for help, but the person didn't know that he was crying out for help. And we didn't know how to help him. Well, I knew how, but I guess the federal laws wouldn't allow me. It was insanely loud, and I'm not exaggerating. At this point, you guys should know when I'm exaggerating. So no one on this plane could even blink an eye. That's how loud this shit was. And I first thought, he was joking because who the hell snores like that? He literally sounded like he was fighting for this last grasp of life. So, just the worst thing on a night flight where everyone is at least hoping to kind of close their eyes and nap a little bit or sleep if possible. Well, for Delta flight number 727, that was not possible. By the way, this is literally the number of the flight. What the hell? Anyway, I highly doubt anyone on this plane was able to even rest, except for this guy, of course. He was basically resting for all of us. And I even had my headphones on, and even through the music, even through the things I was watching, I could still hear this chainsaw sound, like sawing logs, I don't know. So imagine 5 hours and a half listening to this shit, and finally we landed in Detroit. Put your hands up for Detroit, a lovely city. Anyway, we landed in Detroit, and this dude just, wakes up super chilled and relaxed. Like, of course, chilled and relaxed. He slept for 5 freaking hours. I wonder if he noticed how everyone was looking at him. And at this point, I was already at 24 hours with no sleep because I worked the day I left. And combined with no food during the flight, it was just flightmare, literally. Nightmare on a plane. And the worst is when you're on a plane hungry and sleepy, but you can't eat or sleep. Ugh. But, we landed in Detroit and I'm like, let's eat something. So I went to get some breakfast finally. And I almost took the plate off the poor server's hands because I was so starving. I couldn't wait for her to put it on the table. And then I took a nap at my gate while waiting for my other flight from Detroit to Buffalo. So Buffalo is the closest big airport to Niagara Falls, and the flight is barely an hour. It was a small plane with, I want to say, 40 people. Pretty small aircraft. It was nice though. I got to sit next to a woman who was traveling with her family. We talked a little bit, all travel related, of course. Once I landed in Buffalo, I had to move my ass down to their bus station, which was the pickup location for my next transportation this day. The last leg of my trip, the bus from Buffalo to Niagara Falls. So I took a bus from Buffalo Airport to downtown, walked to the bus station, and waited for my transportation. So at this point, I was already at, Jesus, like 30 hours with no sleep. Good thing that I ate in Detroit because I wouldn't be able to talk to this woman on the plane. Like, I'm not a nice person when I'm hungry, and she would have known. But hey, when you spend more than 24 hours without sleeping, at least for me, you're kind of wide awake. You don't even care anymore. You can stay awake for the rest of the day. So when I arrived at Niagara Falls, I was already super excited. And with my last drop of energy, I dragged my shit all the way to the hostel, which looked closer on the goddamn map, by the way. But anyway, because of the crappy sidewalks, I felt like I was going to collapse while I was dragging my luggage to the hostel. Plus the heat. Like, I'm not used to heat anymore. I live in San Francisco, goddammit. We don't really have real summer here, nor do we have real winter. We're somewhere in between. So I'm not really used to heat anymore. For me, the temperature in Niagara Falls was very high. And at the humidity, anyway, I checked in. The hostel was at a great location, had everything I needed, and even had bathrooms in every room instead of shared ones, which is kind of rare for hostels, but great. And I just quickly changed and went straight out to explore. Niagara Falls, amazing place. It was extremely impressive to me. I've been wanting to go for a long time. I knew I was going to go someday, but I didn't know I was going to love it so much. I think it should be on everyone's bucket list. I love nature and I love being around water. I can live anywhere where there is some kind of water surface. Doesn't matter if it's an ocean, sea, lake, pond, river, whatever. I'm happy when I'm around water. It makes me happy just to sit on the beach and, to stare at the water. It's really calming. It kind of washes away your problems, right? You forget about everything. There is something different though about waterfalls because it's not like you're just sitting and you're staring at the water surface. There is an actual movement, like constant movement. And in this case, we're talking about tons of gallons of water every second. Niagara Falls actually turned out to be much bigger than I expected. Like, I'm not a moron. At least I hope I'm not. But I knew what to expect. I knew they were big. That's what she said. But I didn't expect them to be that big. The falls were so impressive in person that they kind of made me feel small in a good way, like nature comparing way. Just admiring and thinking of how incredible nature is was impressive enough. So on my first day, I was just exploring. I was walking around. I was trying to reach every spot with a great view to the waterfalls. Niagara Falls basically consists of 3 waterfalls, 2 on the United States side and 1 on the Canadian side. No matter which side you are on, you can see them all 3. The biggest waterfall is Horseshoe Falls, the one on the Canadian side, and the second biggest is the American Falls, respectively, on the United States side. The smallest one is Bridal Veil, which you can actually stand under. But a little more about that in a minute. So my first day, I was walking around, capturing every angle and every spot to look at the falls, and it was magical, really. Niagara Falls is the largest in North America when it comes to volume and width. The waterfalls are completely free to visit. You can walk around and observe as much as you want. If you want to park in the state park, this will be your only expense. There are also tours, which I highly recommend, but if you're happy with just seeing it, you can do it without spending a dime. However, my opinion is that experiences are not something that we should save money from. You know me, right? $200 for a sweatshirt? Hell no. $300 for a helicopter ride? Hell yeah. So, something I didn't know, which surprised me because, hey, I'm always prepared with info about my destination, so what the hell? Anyway, something that surprised me was that they have fireworks every night during the summer. The owner of the hostel I was staying at told me when I was checking in, and even gave me some great tips of where to watch them from and stuff like that. I was super excited to watch the fireworks, and of course, 1 hour before the time they were supposed to start, freaking rain started pouring. I was like, damn it, this is my only night here. I'm leaving for Boston tomorrow. That's my only chance to see the fireworks. I was getting a little disappointed, but just like in a fairy tale, it stopped raining literally 15 minutes before the start of the fireworks. So, right at 10 p.m., everyone was ready. The park around the falls was full of people waiting everywhere. And along with the fireworks, there was also a light show, and it was amazing. Seeing this incredible place in the dark, light, and in so many colors was just awesome. I was just thankful that I got to see it, that I got a chance to witness that. And those are my favorite moments while I'm traveling by myself. When I'm there in the moment and I realize that I made it. I saw what I wanted to see and I experienced what I wanted to experience. So, guys, as I said, if you haven't been to Niagara Falls, please add it to your bucket list and make sure you go in summer so you can fully enjoy this beauty and also catch the fireworks. But my excitement didn't stop here. I still had a whole another day to spend there and I still had a tour booked. This tour was to go down to the smallest waterfall, which is the only waterfall that you can actually stand under. And when I say stand under, I don't mean like directly under. I mean under part of it because despite being the smallest, this massive thing will wipe you away in a second if you stand directly under it. It was a pretty cool experience to stand under the waterfall and to feel the water falling down on you. It was scary and exciting at the same time. The water was not cold at all. I don't know why I was thinking that I was gonna get sick after this tour because I was going to be soaking wet. The water was warm and nice, except for the speed it was coming with. After that, I got on a boat that goes in the middle of Horseshoe Falls, the biggest falls. This for sure will remain one of the coolest things I have ever experienced. It's hard to explain the feeling, it's hard to describe the view. You just stand on that boat and water is coming from all directions. You're surrounded by this waterfall that shapes half a circle basically. It feels like it's everywhere around you. You're kind of in the middle with the water surrounding you from three sides. It was an incredible experience. I just remember my eyes were about to pop out of my body. I felt like my contact lenses were going to fall out because that's how much I was staring. It was just unreal. It was like different dimension, and you only hear the sound of thousands of gallons of water falling down, and it's all around you. So really close and so far away at the same time. So seeing the waterfalls from the state park spots was amazing as well, but it was a completely different thing to be down there, to be in the water and to get soaking wet from them. If you guys want to check some photos, go find me on Instagram, ADVENTULINA, of course. So this was already done and I was super happy that I pretty much completed my whole Niagara itinerary, got my souvenirs, packed my shit, and I was ready to leave. I had plenty of time until my evening flight from Buffalo to Boston, so everything was on time. I decided to take Uber to the Buffalo airport and, to get there early, eat something, do some work from my laptop, and take off. So just when I booked my $50 Uber ride, the owner of the hostel told me that there was a bus that could take me there for $4, but it would be about 2 hours. And I was like, damn it, I had plenty of time. How didn't I know this? Like, shame on me for, having a travel podcast and not knowing the transport of my destination right after I was talking about this shit in my previous episode, literally. Anyway, I spent 10 times more money to just get to the airport faster, which meant more hours for me to wait for my flight. At least my Uber driver was pretty cool. We talked the whole time. He was from Pakistan and we really covered all travel topics possible for 45 minutes, right? Right after he dropped me off, I went through TSA, grabbed some food, and while I was enjoying my donut, all of a sudden, I got a message that my flight was delayed, of course, because I was there even earlier. This, wasn't the worst thing though. I had a connecting flight, which I was basically missing because of that delay. So they had to rebook me. Few minutes later, I got a message that they rebooked me for a flight that leaves in the morning. I'm like, hell no. I have a night booked in Boston. I have places to be tomorrow. I have a list to check off. No way. So I was like, no, 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 no. I went there, I talked to the staff, and it turned out that the earliest they can take me to Boston is 9:30 in the morning. I was like, fine. I would just go straight to my accommodation after another sleepless night, and I would just start exploring right away, just like it happened with Niagara Falls. So they booked me a hotel really close to Buffalo Airport on their expense, of course, which wasn't really free for me as I already paid for my first night in Boston that I wasn't going to spend there. So anyway, I got my new boarding pass. I went downstairs to wait for the hotel shuttle, and I was thinking, well, maybe it turned out even better, Instead of flying out late and arriving in Boston after midnight, taking Uber and dragging my shit super late, I was going to spend a night in a nice hotel, get up early, and arrive at a still reasonable time for me to complete my whole plan in Boston. While I was thinking of that, I realized I had been waiting for this goddamn shuttle for about 20 minutes. I was like, where is this guy? And after 30 minutes of waiting, he finally came to pick me up. I was already checking in, and I remembered that the airline gave me a food voucher. So I asked the front desk where I was supposed to get food from. Turned out the hotel did not have a restaurant or anything that serves food, and they gave me the name of some pub like 5 minutes away from the hotel. And I'm like, okay, I'm tired as shit, but 5 minutes is okay. Little did I know that by 5 minutes she meant by car. I'm like, And don't get me wrong, I'm not the kind of bitch that would get into a car for the shortest ride. I never refuse to walk. I live in goddamn San Francisco. Walking is my life. But to get to this pub, I had to walk on a highway or whatever road it was where cars were basically flying around me, and I was the only person who was on the sidewalks. Everyone was just driving there. There were no weirdos to walk around, only me. So I was like, great, I was planning on at least going to bed early since I wasn't gonna fly, and they were gonna accommodate me with a hotel, but it turned out to be even worse because I wasted time to walk around trying to find a place to spend my $12 voucher. Yes, $12. There is no way for you to get anything here for $12 that is going to make you full for dinner before tax and tip maybe, but not after. Anyway, I got to the pub after walking and cursing in Bulgarian for 15 minutes, and I waited 20 or 25 minutes for a freaking salad. Finally, I headed back to the hotel, and I'm not even going to mention the way I crossed this highway on my way back, but I was basically waiting for the green pedestrian light for, I'm not exaggerating, 10 freaking minutes. And I get it, no normal person walks there. It's all cars, so they don't bother to come up with more frequent time for crossing. But hey, I was already frustrated enough, and I literally couldn't stay and wait for even a second longer after I risked my life by crossing this busy highway, and I made drivers pretty much question my mental health. I was on my way back to the hotel. Being already pissed, I was just thinking of how I was going to get to my hotel room. I was gonna take a shower, eat my salad in bed, something I would only do if I'm super exhausted and I'm in a hotel. And, I was just thinking of me going to bed early. Yeah, like this was going to happen. Like, no way. Like destiny was going to let me enjoy my salad right away, please. So shower taken, ready for bed, contact lenses off, face is clean, PJs on. I got under the covers because it was kind of chilly from the AC, and I opened my salad. It wasn't even the salad that I ordered. I mean, it was the salad that I ordered, but they put different dressing. And, you know, I'm not that picky. At this point, I was like, what the hell? I just want to eat and sleep. So I'm just gonna eat whatever. Good luck. There was no freaking fork. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Tell me at least there is a spoon or a knife. I don't care. I will find a way to eat a salad with it. Nope, nothing. In other similar situations, I would just make improvised utensils by cutting a plastic cup and like scooping the food, which, by the way, I don't recommend because it cuts the hell out of your mouth, but whatever. I was not in the mood to make plastic utensils myself. Plus, I didn't have a plastic cup, so I had to call room service, and they were like, oh, you need to come downstairs to get a fork. I'm like, sure. If it was anything else, I would have eaten it with fingers, I swear. But salad with dressing, it's just not one of those things. So I got downstairs, picked up my fork, went back and started eating, and I swear at this moment, the only reason for me to go downstairs again would have been if, I don't know, David Beckham was there and he called for me specifically. That was the only reason that could have made me go out of this room again. Pretty much, I spent $50+ to get to the airport on time for a flight that was delayed, and I waited 30 minutes to get picked up from a shuttle, walked on a highway for 15 minutes, and waited for another 20 to get a salad that was not even what I wanted, and was not even fully covered by an airline that postponed my flights and messed up my plans and accommodated me with a hotel, which I basically paid for because I didn't show up for my reservation in Boston and I was charged for that. Sweet, huh? That was a fucking long sentence. Best part, I was going to sleep for 3 hours. Whoa, how did I deserve that? So I woke up in 3 hours to get another shuttle and to go back to the airport for, this time, thank God, a successful takeoff. I first flew to Washington, D.C. and then to Boston, so by the time I arrived in Boston, I literally forgot what day it was. I forgot what day I started my trip. I forgot which airport I was at. I must have fallen asleep, by the way, at some point, because I remember I opened my eyes and I was like, where the hell am I? Is that Detroit? Is that Buffalo? Is this Boston? Like, it had been too many airports at this point for such a short period of time that I wasn't sure where I was at the moment. But I finally arrived in Boston, left the plane, dying for some sleep, and ready to freshen up in the bathroom. I was walking towards the bathroom and I was like, something's wrong. Like, I feel really light. And I realized the idiot I am. I forgot my fanny pack with all my documents and pretty much the most important things on the plane. You should have seen how fast I went from sleepy to wide awake and ready to freak out. So I ran back to the gate where a woman told me, I couldn't get back, of course, and they were going to check for me. Meanwhile, I was just praying to God for no one to take it, or if they take it, to at least leave the documents. Like, fuck the cards. I, didn't care about anything else. I didn't even have cash. So the short few minutes that I waited for them to check my seat pretty much felt like hour and a half for me. Finally, they brought me my bag and I was so relieved. Because imagine if I lost all my important documents and all my important stuff. Like, I pretty much would have gone back to California by bus or train. That would have been pretty interesting, from East Coast to West Coast by Greyhound. Jesus. Not that I wouldn't do this for the adventure, but for lost documents, it wouldn't be that much fun, right? So I got on a bus from Boston Logan Airport all the way to downtown, checked in immediately in my hostel despite how early it was because remember, I got the previous night all paid for. And after that, I went out right away. Boston was amazing. Last time I was there, it was literally 11 years ago, so I did not remember much. I only hung out there for, I want to say, a couple of hours because I was there for a concert. So I just explored a little bit and then went straight to the venue. But this time I had 3 full days and I literally got to see things that, made me fall in love with this place that I didn't vividly remember. I got to see some of the things I saw the first time. I got to find so many new things, got some seafood, of course, and just walking to the places I wanted to see, there is so much to see in between. The places you happen to go around or through that weren't even on your plan sometimes are the best surprises. I'm, by the way, putting together a Boston guide that is going to be released in the upcoming weeks, so stay tuned if you're planning on visiting this beautiful city. So overall, Boston was extremely clean, nice and green, nice buildings, great architecture, and pretty walkable. Living in San Francisco, I walk a lot. If something is 30 minutes away, I'll just walk. So for me, it was no problem to make between 10 and 14 miles. Yes, I'm not joking. Plus, Boston is pretty flat, which is not the situation in San Francisco. I kind of found both San Francisco and Boston pretty similar when it comes to population and size and how walkable they are. So it was really great to have 3 full days to explore this beautiful city. I, of course, completed my whole itinerary and checked off all the places I wanted to see. I even took a train and went to Harvard University in Cambridge to see the campus and everything. And it's pretty crazy how you can go visit a place like this and get this immediate desire of enrolling into a university just to experience this whole thing. Not that anyone will ever accept me in a place like Harvard, don't get me wrong. This is like not even a joke, but you know what I mean. Just watching all those movies as a kid when college kids gather outside and it's kind of cool to sit on the grass and read your book and stuff. It's for the vibe. I would really enroll for the vibe. Well, not really, but it would be cool if I could experience that college life because in my country, college life is pretty different. But anyway, it was really cool to see that as well. And after 3 days in Boston, I finally headed to my first American love, Cape Cod, which is about hour and a half, 2 hours away from Boston. I decided to take the ferry this time because I always either have someone picking me up from Boston or I take a bus. So I'm like, I've taken buses. I have been given rides. Let's try the ferry. So I got on a ferry from Boston all the way to Cape Cod and it was a pretty cool experience. I did not see any whales, but that's okay. I've been whale watching there before, so I wasn't upset. It was just cool to, get on the ferry and kind of enjoy the water. As I said already, I like being around water. I was super excited to finally see my friends, and not just friends, actually, family. I call them my American family because they literally would take care of us like their kids back when me and my friends were exchange students and lived on Cape Cod. They were like our parents there. I just cannot explain how many different situations they helped us in and how much better they would make us feel while being away from home. So for me, they will always be my American family and Cape Cod will always be my first American home. It was really, really great to visit them and spend some quality time together. So, as I've shared before, I started coming to the United States as a J1 student, basically a participant in the work and travel program to live and work here during our university summer break in Bulgaria. I spent 2 summers on Cape Cod as a work and travel student, but last time I visited my American family was in 2018 when I was in the country for an internship. So back in 2018, I only stayed for 3 or 4 days and it was raining and we did a lot of things despite the rain, but also it wasn't enough. Well, this time I got to stay with them for about 10 days and I got time to see everyone I wanted to see. We cooked dinners every night. We went to so many different beaches. We went kayaking twice, and believe it or not, it was my first time. I have no idea how and why kayaking had always gotten away from me in a way, but seriously, this was my first kayak experience. Shame on me. I was also riding a bike almost every day. This is something that I do in San Francisco from time to time. Not as often as I want, but I literally forgot how cool it was to bike everywhere because that's what we did when we lived on Cape Cod. The bike was our best friend. Summer work and travel students just get on a bike and go to work, go to parties. It's just a main transportation for them. Cape Cod is an extremely secluded and peaceful place. It may not have much of a social life, but it will recharge your soul in an amazing way. I was just so happy to get on a bike and, go on the bike trail, ride for miles, and just get places. However, 10 days there just slipped away and I had to go home. I wasn't really ready to go home, if I have to be honest, because I just felt like I could stay longer. It was a nice getaway, hit some beaches as well. Not necessarily to say that, of course, I got sunburned. I think I can never go to the beach without getting sunburned, by the way. Literally, doesn't matter if it's hot or not, sunny or not. Somehow I always end up looking like a lobster after. Like a lobster. Hey! Red for the very first time. Anyway, but I was like, hey, I've been away for more than 2 weeks at this point. I have to go home. I have to go home eventually, right? On top of that, my friend who lives in New York, who I visited back in December, texted me, hey, since you're on the East Coast and you're kind of close, why don't you stop by New York? And I'm like, oh, girl, don't invite me because I will come. You know me. I don't need much. Well, I had a ticket for a concert here in San Francisco that I really wanted to attend, so I had to go home. It was already time, but of course, going home was not smooth and perfect, just like the start of my trip wasn't. I was already at Logan International Airport in Boston, and I was waiting for my flight. I was supposed to fly from Boston to Los Angeles, and then I had a few hours connection time, and then fly from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Before I left, I was joking with my friends that I wouldn't be really upset if they delayed my first flight, so this way I wouldn't have to spend so much time at Los Angeles airport. And you know what they say? Be careful what you wish for. Yep, I was already there and my flight got delayed. They said it was a problem with the engine, not something anyone wants to hear when they're supposed to fly, right? But finally we got in an hour later than planned, and we were circling around the airport for 1 hour. Again, no exaggeration. 60 goddamn minutes of driving around all the terminals until the captain announced that the engine problem is not fixed, and we also ran out of fuel. I'm not joking, that was the reason. It kind of reminded me of this Friends episode when Rachel is on the plane and Phoebe is trying to make her get off by calling her on the phone and saying that she had a feeling something was wrong with the phalange. I have a feeling something's wrong with the plane, something's wrong with the left phalange. Well, not sure if our phalange was fine or not, but I didn't really care at this point. After all, I would rather fly with a safe plane and be alive than rush to get home and die because of an engine issue, right? So we were coming back to the gate and everyone was going to be rescheduled, which is really sweet because this means another night without sleep. And, waiting for flights to catch. So no complaining, just saying. They rebooked me for a direct flight to San Francisco early in the morning, basically in a few hours because it was already almost 1 a.m. They offered to book me a hotel, but by the time I would have gotten to my hotel, I basically would have had to leave back to the airport. It was pointless. So I had to stay at the airport. Nothing new, right? I walked for a couple of minutes and I found this great little corner with some nice furniture, which I immediately put together. And I was like, hello, bed for tonight. And right when I was about to, put my hoodie on and close my goddamn eyes, a security guard comes over and he's like, miss, you cannot stay here. I'm like, what? Then I remembered that Boston Logan Airport is one of the few airports when you're not allowed to stay on the gates during the night. Bullshit. So between midnight and 3 a.m., you have to stay in the area downstairs where all the check-in desks are, which sucks because there are not even enough seats there. So I got downstairs and there were people everywhere, laying down, sleeping, doing their thing. Somehow I found a spot where I could at least be on a seat, but it was so cold. I guess I was close to the parking door or whatever. I was freezing. I had to put on an extra layer of clothes right after the day I got sunburned. What the hell? So, right before I died from hypothermia, basically, the airline I was rescheduled with opened finally. And I headed over there to get my new boarding pass for my rebooked flight because they literally got me, the last ticket. So guess where my seat was? Of course, a last row, literally the worst seat you can get on a plane. You cannot recline your freaking seat because, you have a wall behind your back. And it really sucks because also everyone else is going around you on their way to the bathroom. But hey, I made it to San Francisco, and obviously I had enough shit to talk about during this episode to give you guys an update. So I would say, as a recap of the whole trip, the highlights were definitely the boat ride at Niagara Falls and, seeing my American family. Those things made my trip unforgettable. Seeing Boston for a second time and just being able to walk around for 3 days was amazing as well. By the way, I met some Bulgarians and a Macedonian couple, pretty nice people, and now I have new eyes for Boston. Definitely would love to go back. I guess after everything, after all the challenges like delayed flights and whatever, the best part was that I got compensated with almost 20,000 miles for all the inconveniences, which is basically a round trip for free. So, hey, I'm not complaining at all. Almost 20,000 miles. I'll take it. Maybe delay my flight next time again. No, just kidding. But yeah, I think these things are just inevitable when you travel. I've talked about this before. The more you travel, the more shit happens to you. And this is also the fun part because if it wasn't for these challenges, you wouldn't have any stories to tell after, right? And if you have never experienced a delayed or canceled flight, in my opinion, you haven't traveled enough. So yeah, despite all the challenges and everything, I was just super happy to be able to go on another solo trip and, to safely return home. Because as we've talked before, safety is the most important thing when it comes to traveling by yourself. And I'm just thankful for all the memories I created because remember, better see it by yourself than not see it at all. And with that said, I think I should wrap up this episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed all the adventures, and I'm sure you have similar stories to tell, so please share your stories with me, text me on Instagram or any of the other social media channels I have. Send me an email to evelina@adventulina.com. Let's keep it fun. I dare you to share your worst airport stories. By the way, this was not my worst airport experience for sure. That bitch has seen much worse. So, hey, tell me about your experience and let's see who wins. Thank you guys for listening again and have a great week. I will see you, well, not really see you, but you know what I mean. I will see you soon when my next episode lands, which is going to be shortly. So, bon voyage.